The glass doors of Technova Corp slide open with a whisper, revealing a lobby that screams corporate dominance. Marble floors stretch across an expanse designed to intimidate, while floor-to-ceiling windows filter the morning light into sharp geometric pattern. Maya Williams steps through these doors with the quiet confidence of someone who belongs everywhere and nowhere all at once. She wears a charcoal blazer over dark jeans, expensive but understated, the kind of outfit that could belong to a senior manager or a visiting consultant. Her natural hair is pulled back in a low bun, and she carries a simple leather briefcase that shows no external signs of the power it represents. At 38, Maya has learned that true authority doesn't announce itself with fanfare. The receptionist, a blonde woman with perfectly manicured nails, looks up from her computer screen with the practiced smile reserved for people she assumes are beneath her pay grade. Her eyes scan Maya from head to toe in an assessment that takes less than 3 seconds but feels like an eternity. The smile falters slightly. "Good morning," Maya says, her voice steady and professional. "I'm here to see the executive team regarding the upcoming investment discussion." Before the receptionist can respond, footsteps echo across the marble. James Morrison emerges from the elevator bank like a man who owns the world. Tall, silver-haired, and wearing a suit that costs more than most people's monthly rent, he carries himself with the swagger of someone who has never been told no. His pale blue eyes scan the lobby, landing briefly on Maya before dismissing her entirely. Morrison approaches a group of white executives who have gathered near the reception area, his arms spread wide in welcome. "Gentlemen, ladies, good to see everyone bright and early." He shakes hands enthusiastically, clapping shoulders and engaging in the kind of performative bonding that passes for leadership in corporate America. Maya watches this display with the patience of someone studying a particularly interesting specimen. She takes a step forward, extending her hand toward Morrison as he finishes his greeting. "Mr. Morrison, I'm Maya Williams. I believe we have a meeting scheduled this morning." Morrison turns toward her, and for a moment, his face shows genuine confusion. Then something shifts, a hardening around his eyes that Maya recognizes immediately. She has seen this look before, in boardrooms and conference calls, in first-class airport lounges and exclusive restaurants. It's the look of a man who has just been asked to acknowledge someone he considers beneath his notice. "I'm sorry," Morrison says, his voice dropping several degrees in temperature. "I don't shake hands with staff. If you're looking for HR, they're on the 3rd floor. Perhaps someone there can help you find where you're supposed to be." The lobby falls silent. Even the soft classical music from the overhead speakers seems to pause in anticipation. Maya's hand remains extended for exactly 1 second longer than necessary, long enough for everyone present to understand what has just happened, but not long enough to appear desperate. She lowers her hand slowly, her expression unchanging. "I see," she says simply. Morrison has already turned away, but something in Maya's tone makes him glance back. For just a moment, their eyes meet, and he sees something there that makes him pause. But the moment passes, and his arrogance reasserts itself like armor. "Security will show you out if you're lost," he adds over his shoulder, already moving toward the elevator bank. Maya remains perfectly still, her briefcase at her side, her posture erect. Around her, the other executives begin to shuffle uncomfortably. Some avoid eye contact entirely, while others steal glances at her with expressions ranging from pity to curiosity. One junior executive, a young black woman near the reception desk, looks mortified. The receptionist clears her throat. "Ma'am, if you could just sign in here and let me know who you're visiting." Maya turns toward her with a smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes. "That won't be necessary," she says quietly. "I'll wait." You wouldn't believe what happens when a man who builds his power on assumptions meets a woman who has built an empire on reality. Sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the one everyone refuses to see. Maya positions herself in one of the leather chairs that line the lobby's perimeter, crossing her legs and placing her briefcase beside her with deliberate precision. She doesn't check her phone or flip through magazines like someone killing time. Instead, she watches. She observes the flow of people through the lobby, the deference shown to certain individuals, the casual dismissal of others. Morrison has disappeared into the elevator, but his presence lingers like smoke. The receptionist keeps glancing at Maya with increasing nervousness, clearly unsure how to handle a situation that falls outside her normal protocol. Other employees stream through the lobby: software engineers with coffee-stained t-shirts, marketing executives in designer shoes, administrative assistants juggling multiple phones. Maya notices how Morrison's attitude has set the tone. Several employees who witnessed the exchange now give her a wide berth, as if proximity might somehow implicate them in whatever transgression Morrison believes she has committed. Others, particularly the younger staff members and those who share her heritage, shoot her sympathetic looks when they think no one is watching. 30 minutes pass. Maya hasn't moved except to check her watch, a simple but elegant piece that gives no hint of its six-figure value. Her patience is the kind born of experience, the calm that comes from understanding that time always reveals truth. At exactly 9:47 a.m., Morrison returns to the lobby with two other executives in tow. The first is David Chen, Technova's chief financial officer, a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses who has built his career on being Morrison's most reliable echo. The second is Rebecca Walsh, head of strategic partnerships, whose designer suit and predatory smile suggest she has never met a deal she couldn't manipulate to her advantage. Morrison stops short when he sees Maya still seated in the lobby. His jaw tightens visibly. "I thought I made myself clear," he says, his voice carrying across the marble expanse. "This isn't a waiting room for job applicants." Maya rises slowly, her movements fluid and controlled. "I'm not here about employment, Mr. Morrison. I'm here about business." Chen steps forward, adjusting his glasses with the nervous energy of someone perpetually seeking approval. "Ma'am, I think there might be some confusion. Our business meetings are scheduled through official channels, with confirmed partners and verified credentials." "Verified credentials," Maya repeats, as if testing the words. Interesting phrase. Morrison's patience, never substantial to begin with, evaporates entirely. "Look, I don't know what game you're playing, but Technova doesn't have time for whatever this is. Rebecca, call security." Walsh pulls out her phone with theatrical efficiency, but Maya's voice stops her mid-dial. "Before you do that, perhaps you'd like to know why Williams Investment Fund requested this meeting?" The name hangs in the air like a challenge. Morrison's expression shifts from annoyance to confusion to something approaching concern. Williams Investment Fund, he recognizes the name, but he can't quite place it. Chen's glasses have slipped down his nose, and he pushes them up nervously. "Williams Investment Fund," Morrison says slowly. "Never heard of it." Maya reaches into her briefcase and withdraws a business card, holding it out toward Morrison. "Perhaps this will refresh your memory." Morrison stares at the card without taking it, as if physical contact might somehow compromise his position. The card is understated cream-colored stock with elegant typography. No flashy logos or embossed gold, just a name, a title, and contact information that whisper rather than shout. "I told you," Morrison says, his voice rising slightly. "I don't take cards from." He stops himself, but the words hang in the air anyway, their implication clear to everyone present. Maya tilts her head slightly, studying him with the detached interest of an anthropologist observing primitive behavior. "From whom, Mr. Morrison?" The lobby has begun to fill with employees starting their workday, and conversations die as people sense the tension crackling between the small group near reception. Phones emerge from pockets as the more social media-savvy staff begin to recognize that something significant is happening. Morrison realizes he has an audience and attempts to regain control of the narrative. "From people who don't have legitimate business here," he says, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to having the final word. Maya nods slowly, as if his response confirms something she already suspected. She places the business card on the reception desk, where it sits like evidence waiting to be examined. "I understand your position completely, Mr. Morrison. Crystal clear." The quiet authority in her voice seems to unnerve Chen, who steps closer to Morrison as if seeking protection. Walsh continues to hover with her phone, unsure whether the situation still requires security intervention. "Good," Morrison says, though his confidence sounds slightly forced. Then we understand each other. Oh yes, Maya replies, her smile sharp as winter wind. We understand each other perfectly. Morrison turns to leave, but Maya's voice follows him across the marble. Mr. Morrison, you might want to check your emails before your next meeting. I believe you'll find them illuminating. He pauses mid-stride, something in her tone making him look back. But Maya has already returned to her chair, once again adopting the posture of someone with infinite patience and absolutely nothing to lose. The stage is set. The players have revealed themselves, and in the quiet hum of corporate machinery, the sound of an empire beginning to crack is almost too soft to hear. Maya settles back into her chair with the studied calm of someone who has just lit a very long fuse. Around her, the lobby continues its morning rhythm, but there's an undercurrent of tension now, like the moment before a thunderstorm, when the air itself seems to hold its breath. She doesn't reach for her phone to pass the time or check her messages. Instead, she watches Morrison disappear into an elevator with Chen and Walsh, noting the urgent conversation that begins the moment the doors close. 20 minutes later, Morrison returns alone, his face bearing the slightly flushed look of a man who has just received unwelcome news. He approaches Maya's seating area with the deliberate stride of someone attempting to project confidence while fighting internal panic. Miss, he pauses, realizing he doesn't actually know her name. Williams, Maya supplies helpfully. Maya Williams. Right, Miss Williams. I've been informed that there may have been some miscommunication about your visit today. His corporate speak is careful, measured, but there's a tremor beneath it that suggests someone higher up the food chain has just reminded him of certain realities. Maya rises to meet him, her movements unhurried. I wouldn't call it a miscommunication, Mr. Morrison. I'd call it exactly what it was. Morrison's jaw works silently for a moment. Around them, the lobby has begun to fill with mid-morning foot traffic, and several employees slow their pace to observe the interaction. Perhaps we could discuss this in my office, he suggests, though his tone makes it clear he'd rather discuss it never. I think here is fine, Maya replies. Public spaces have a way of keeping conversations honest. Chen reappears from the elevator bank, his nervous energy now amplified to the point where he seems to vibrate slightly. He whispers something urgent in Morrison's ear, and Maya watches the color drain from the CEO's face. There seems to be some confusion about the scope of your investment interests, Morrison says, his voice tight. Maya tilts her head with the kind of polite interest that predators show their prey. No confusion on my end, Mr. Morrison. Williams Investment Fund has very clear interests regarding Technova Corporation. Crystal clear, you might say. The word choice is deliberate, throwing his earlier dismissal back at him with surgical precision. Morrison recognizes the echo and his face hardens. Now see here, Mr. Morrison, Maya interrupts, her voice cutting through his bluster like a scalpel through silk. Before you continue, you might want to consider very carefully what you say next. Some words, once spoken, can't be taken back. Chen tugs at Morrison's sleeve, whispering frantically, but Morrison shakes him off. The CEO's face is flushed now, the careful corporate mask slipping to reveal something uglier underneath. I don't like threats, Morrison says, his voice rising enough to draw stares from across the lobby. I don't make threats, Maya replies evenly. I make observations, and I observe that you're about to make a decision that will define not just this conversation, but your entire future with this company. Morrison's laugh is harsh and artificial. My future? Do you have any idea who you're talking to? I built this company. I am Technova. Maya's smile is winter cold and twice as cutting. Are you? The question hangs between them like a blade. Morrison's face cycles through confusion, anger, and something approaching fear before settling on defiant rage. Security, he bellows, his voice echoing off the marble walls. Get this woman out of my building. The lobby falls silent except for the soft hum of air conditioning and the distant ping of elevator arrivals. Every conversation stops. Every phone call pauses. Even the reception desk seems to hold its breath. Two security guards emerge from their station near the entrance, moving with the reluctant pace of people who sense they're walking into something they don't understand. Maya doesn't move from her position, doesn't even acknowledge their approach. Her attention remains fixed on Morrison with the intensity of a laser. "Your building," she repeats softly. Interesting choice of word. Morrison gestures toward the approaching guards. "Escort Miss Williams to the exit. Immediately." The first guard, a burly man with kind eyes and obvious discomfort written across his face, stops just short of Maya's position. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." Maya turns to him with a smile that actually reaches her eyes for the first time that morning. "Of course. But before I go," she reaches into her briefcase and withdraws a slim folder. "Mr. Morrison, this contains the documentation for our proposed investment. Perhaps you'd like to review it before I take it elsewhere." Morrison doesn't even glance at the folder. "I told you, I don't accept business proposals from people who don't fit your demographic preferences." Maya finishes for him. "Yes, you've made that abundantly clear." The lobby is now completely silent except for the soft sound of phones recording video. Morrison realizes he has an audience, and something shifts in his demeanor, a recognition that his next words will be preserved and potentially shared. "That's not what I said," he backtracks. "But the damage is already done." Maya places the folder on a nearby table and smooths her blazer. "You're absolutely right, Mr. Morrison. You didn't say it, you demonstrated it. Much more powerful than words, don't you think?" She picks up her briefcase and turns toward the exit, then pauses as if remembering something. "Oh, and Mr. Morrison, you might want to check the stock ticker around noon. I have a feeling Technova's day is about to become very interesting." With that, Maya Williams walks toward the glass doors with the same quiet confidence she brought into the building. But now there's something else in her bearing a sense of purpose that wasn't there before, like a chess master who has just realized their opponent has walked directly into a trap 20 moves in the making. Morrison watches her go, his face a mask of confusion and barely controlled rage. Chen clutches his phone like a lifeline, presumably texting someone with increasing desperation. Walsh has finally put her phone away, but only because she's realized that calling security on someone who just left voluntarily makes no strategic sense. As the glass doors close behind Maya, she doesn't look back. She doesn't need to. She can feel the building's attention on her retreating figure like heat from a fire. And somewhere in that corporate tower, in boardrooms and corner offices she has never seen, phones are beginning to ring with urgent questions that no one inside Technova is prepared to answer. The first act is over. The intermission has begun. And when the curtain rises again, nothing will ever be the same. 23 minutes after Maya Williams walks out of Technova's lobby, Morrison's assistant appears at his elbow with the kind of expression usually reserved for natural disasters. Her normally composed face is pale, and her hand trembles slightly as she holds out a tablet displaying an urgent email. "Sir," she says, her voice barely above a whisper, "you need to see this. It's from the board of directors." Morrison snatches the tablet with the irritation of a man whose morning has already been thoroughly disrupted. His eyes scan the message once, then twice, then a third time, as if repetition might somehow change the words on the screen. The color drains from his face like water from a broken dam. Chen hovers nearby, his nervous energy now approaching critical mass. "James, what is it?" Morrison's mouth opens and closes silently, like a fish pulled from water. The tablet slips from his nerveless fingers, clattering onto the marble floor where the screen displays a message that begins, "Emergency board meeting, 11:30 a.m., Williams Investment Fund. All senior staff required." "Get Rebecca," Morrison says, finally, his voice hollow. "Get everyone. Conference room A. Now." The next hour unfolds like a fever dream. Phone calls are made with increasing desperation. Emails fly back and forth between offices separated by mere floors but feeling like continents. In the corporate communications department, a junior associate pulls up Williams Investment Fund's website and nearly chokes on her coffee when she sees the portfolio holdings and asset management figures. 43 floors above the lobby where Maya was dismissed, board chairman Robert Sterling sits in his corner office, staring at documents that have just fundamentally altered his understanding of Technova's survival prospects. The papers spread across his mahogany desk tell a story of investment relationships, funding agreements, and financial dependencies that most of his senior staff were never meant to see. His secretary knocks once before entering. "Mr. Sterling? Mr. Morrison is here for the emergency meeting." "Send him in," Sterling says, not looking up from the documents. "And Janet, hold all my calls. All of them." Morrison enters the office like a man walking to his execution. His earlier bluster has evaporated entirely, replaced by the desperate energy of someone who suspects their world is about to collapse, but doesn't yet understand how or why. "Bob, I need to know what the hell is going on," Morrison says, dropping into the chair across from Sterling's desk without invitation. "Some woman shows up this morning, claims to represent something called Williams Investment Fund, and now I've got emergency board meetings called. Who is this person?" Sterling finally looks up, and Morrison sees something in the chairman's eyes that makes his stomach drop toward his shoes. It's the look of a man who has just realized he's been sharing a lifeboat with someone who's been drilling holes in the hull. "James," Sterling says slowly, "Maya Williams isn't just some woman. She's the founder and CEO of Williams Investment Fund. They currently hold approximately $4 billion in strategic investments, including a significant portion of Technova's operational funding." Morrison's face goes through several color changes in rapid succession. "$4 billion? That's impossible. I've never heard of." "You've never heard of her because she doesn't advertise," Sterling interrupts. "Williams Investment Fund operates on relationship-based investments. They don't send marketing materials or host flashy conferences. They identify companies with potential, invest quietly, and then monitor their investments very carefully." "Monitor," Morrison repeats, the word tasting like ash in his mouth. Sterling slides a folder across the desk. "Maya Williams has been monitoring Technova for 18 months. She's here today because the fund was considering increasing their investment to help us expand into the Asian markets." Was considering. James. Past tense. Morrison opens the folder with shaking hands. The documents inside detail financial projections, growth strategies, and partnership opportunities that would have transformed Technova from a successful tech company into a global powerhouse. The numbers are staggering. The potential is breathtaking. And at the bottom of every page, there's a signature. "Maya Williams, CEO, Williams Investment Fund." "I didn't know," Morrison whispers, though the words sound pathetic even to his own ears. "How was I supposed to know?" Sterling's laugh is dry as desert wind. "You weren't supposed to know, James. That was exactly the point. Maya Williams wanted to see Technova's true culture, without the performance that happens when everyone knows they're being evaluated by a billionaire investor. She wanted to see how we treat people when we think no one important is watching." The implications crash over Morrison like a tsunami. Every word he spoke, every dismissive gesture, every assumption he made about Maya's worth and place in his building, all of it recorded not just on the phones of gawking employees, but in the careful observation of someone who holds Technova's future in her hands. "The board meeting," Morrison says, his voice cracking slightly. "What are they going to do?" Sterling's expression is grave. "What they have to do, James. What any board would do when they discover that their CEO has just insulted, dismissed, and ejected a $4 billion investor because of his personal prejudices." Morrison slumps in his chair, the full weight of his actions finally settling on his shoulders. "She knew," he says quietly. "The whole time, she knew who she was, and she just let you show her exactly who you are," Sterling finishes. "And James, she wasn't the only one watching." As if summoned by Sterling's words, the chairman's phone begins to ring. The caller ID shows a number that makes Sterling's face tighten with concern. He answers on the second ring. "Maya," he says, his voice carefully neutral. "I was hoping we could discuss this morning's events." Maya's voice carries clearly through the speakerphone, calm and professional as morning sunlight. "Hello, Robert. I'm calling to inform you that Williams Investment Fund will be withdrawing our current investment in Technova Corporation, effective immediately." Morrison's face goes white. Sterling closes his eyes as if in physical pain. "Maya, surely we can..." "Additionally," Maya continues, her tone unchanged, We'll be recommending to our network of partner funds that Technova be placed on the exclusion list for future investment opportunities. Maya, please, let's talk about this. James was clearly out of line, but, Robert, Maya's voice cuts through Sterling's pleading like a blade through silk. I want you to understand something. This isn't about hurt feelings or personal slights. This is about institutional culture. What happened this morning wasn't an aberration, it was a revelation. Sterling opens his eyes and looks directly at Morrison, who seems to be shrinking into his chair with each word Maya speaks. However, Maya continues, and both men lean forward as if that single word might contain salvation. Williams' investment fund is prepared to reconsider our position under specific conditions. What conditions? Sterling asks, though his tone suggests he already knows the answer won't be pleasant. Complete restructuring of senior leadership, beginning with anyone who demonstrated discriminatory behavior this morning. Mandatory diversity and inclusion training for all management-level personnel. Independent oversight of hiring and promotion practices, and a public apology acknowledging that Technova's corporate culture failed to meet basic standards of professional respect. Morrison starts to speak, but Sterling silences him with a gesture. We'll need time to consider. Sterling begins. You have until 5 p.m. today, Maya says. After that, our offer expires, and Williams' investment fund will be announcing our divestment at tomorrow's quarterly review. I'm sure I don't need to explain what that kind of announcement will do to Technova's stock price or industry reputation. The line goes quiet except for the soft hum of the speaker. Then Maya's voice returns. Softer now, but no less resolute. Robert, I've watched Technova's trajectory for 2 years. You've built something extraordinary. But extraordinary companies require extraordinary leadership that recognizes talent and potential regardless of packaging. This morning showed me that Technova's current leadership is not extraordinary. It's ordinary in the worst possible way. The call ends with a soft click that sounds like a door closing on everything Morrison thought he knew about his career, his company, and his future. Sterling and Morrison sit in silence for a long moment, the weight of Maya's ultimatum settling over them like a burial shroud. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city continues its relentless pace, unaware that in this one office, an empire is crumbling one conversation at a time. Finally, Morrison speaks, his voice barely above a whisper. $4 billion. $4 billion? Sterling confirms. And that's just the beginning. Maya Williams doesn't just invest money, James. She invests credibility. When Williams' investment fund backs a company, it signals to the entire investment community that this company has extraordinary potential. When they withdraw that backing, he doesn't need to finish the sentence. They both understand the implications. Morrison's career at Technova is over. The only question now is whether the company can survive the dismantling of everything he built his authority upon, or whether Maya Williams has just delivered a death sentence that will take exactly until tomorrow's market opening to execute. The clock on Sterling's desk ticks toward noon, each second bringing them closer to Maya's deadline and further from any possibility of returning to the world they knew this morning. Time, like respect, is something that once lost can never quite be recovered. At exactly 11:28 a.m., the Technova boardroom fills with the kind of tension usually reserved for corporate executions. The mahogany table that normally hosts strategic planning sessions now feels like a tribunal bench, with Morrison sitting at one end like a defendant awaiting sentencing. The board members file in with the grim expressions of people who have just learned their ship has been taking on water while they admired the view from the deck. Board Chairman Robert Sterling calls the meeting to order with none of his usual pleasantries. We're here to address the events of this morning involving Maya Williams of Williams Investment Fund. I assume everyone has reviewed the briefing materials. Around the table, heads nod grimly. The briefing materials make for sobering reading, financial projections, investment portfolios, and a detailed breakdown of exactly how much of Technova's future prosperity depends on relationships that Morrison may have just incinerated with his morning's performance. Before we begin, Sterling continues, I should mention that we've received several videos of this morning's interaction. They're already circulating on social media. Morrison's face, already pale, somehow manages to lose even more color. Videos? Board member Sarah Chen, no relation to the CFO, slides her tablet across the table. The screen shows a TikTok video with the caption, "CEO refuses to shake hands with black woman, you won't believe what happens next." The view count is climbing rapidly. 47,000, 48,000, 49,000. There are currently 14 different videos of your interaction with Miss Williams circulating across various platforms. Chen reports with the clinical detachment of someone reading a pathology report. Combined views are approaching 200,000 and climbing exponentially. Morrison watches himself on the screen, seeing his morning's actions through the lens of public scrutiny. The man in the video looks arrogant, dismissive, and worse, he looks like exactly the kind of corporate dinosaur that modern companies are supposed to have evolved beyond. The trending hashtag, Chen continues, is number Technova CEO fail. Current sentiment analysis shows overwhelmingly negative public response. Dr. Elizabeth Harper, the board's longest-serving member and a woman who built her career dismantling glass ceilings, leans forward with the expression of someone who has seen this story too many times. "James, I need you to walk us through your thinking this morning. What made you believe that dismissing an unknown visitor without basic professional courtesy was appropriate?" Morrison shifts in his chair, looking for words that might somehow reframe his actions in a favorable light. "I assumed she was a job applicant who had wandered into the wrong area. The lobby gets a lot of foot traffic. And you assumed," Harper interrupts, her voice sharp as broken glass. "Based on what evidence?" The question hangs in the air like smoke from a gun. Morrison's mouth opens and closes without producing sound, because they all know the answer. They all understand exactly what evidence informed his assumptions. Sterling slides another document across the table. Maya Williams holds advanced degrees from MIT and Harvard Business School. She's been featured on the cover of Forbes twice. Her investment fund has a perfect track record of identifying undervalued companies and transforming them into industry leaders. By any objective measure, she's exactly the kind of strategic partner Technova should be courting aggressively. "I didn't know any of that," Morrison protests, but his voice lacks conviction. "No," agrees board member Marcus Webb, a soft-spoken man whose quiet demeanor conceals a razor-sharp intellect. "You didn't know any of that. The question is, why didn't you try to find out before making your judgment?" Morrison has no answer, because any honest response would require acknowledging the unconscious biases that shaped his perception of Maya Williams from the moment she walked through Technova's doors. Sterling's phone buzzes with an incoming message. He glances at the screen, and his expression grows even more grave. Maya Williams has just posted a statement on her company's official channels. She's announcing Williams Investment Fund's immediate divestment from Technova, citing fundamental incompatibilities with our organizational values. The boardroom falls silent except for the soft hum of air conditioning and the distant sound of keyboards clicking as board members pull up the statement on their own devices. Chen reads aloud from her tablet. "Williams Investment Fund invests in companies that demonstrate excellence not just in their products and services, but in their treatment of all stakeholders. Unfortunately, Technova Corporation has shown that their leadership does not meet the standards of professionalism and respect that our fund requires from investment partners." Morrison feels the walls closing in around him. She can, Sterling says quietly, and she has. The statement has already been picked up by 3 major financial news outlets. "Our stock price has dropped 4% in the last 10 minutes. Board member Jessica Rodriguez, who joined Technova's board after successfully navigating her own company through a similar crisis, leans back in her chair with the expression of someone calculating odds. "We have approximately 6 hours before the market closes. If we're going to contain this damage, we need to act immediately and decisively." "What are you suggesting?" Morrison asks, though his tone suggests he already knows. Rodriguez's smile is sympathetic but firm. "James, you know what we're suggesting. The board cannot allow Technova's reputation and financial stability to be destroyed because of one executive's poor judgment. We need to demonstrate to Miss Williams and to the market that this morning's events do not represent Technova's values." Morrison looks around the table, seeing his professional death warrant written on every face. These people were his allies, his supporters, the colleagues who had celebrated his successes and defended his strategies. Now they look at him like he's a liability to be managed, a problem to be solved. "You're firing me," he says, the words coming out flat and lifeless. "We're accepting your resignation," Sterling corrects gently. "Effective immediately. Teknova will issue a statement acknowledging that this morning's events were unacceptable and announcing your departure, along with a commitment to comprehensive diversity and inclusion reforms." Morrison's laugh is bitter and hollow. "And you think that will satisfy her? You think Maya Williams will just forgive and forget because you throw me under the bus?" Dr. Harper's expression softens slightly, showing a glimpse of the mentor she once was to countless young professionals. "James, this isn't about punishment or sacrifice. This is about accountability. You made choices this morning that have put an entire company at risk. The board's responsibility is to protect Teknova and all its stakeholders, including the thousands of employees whose livelihoods depend on our success." Sterling nods toward the door. "Your assistant is preparing your severance package. Legal will handle the non-disclosure agreements and transition details. We'll need your resignation letter within the hour." Morrison stands slowly, his legs unsteady beneath him. At 9 a.m. this morning, he was the CEO of one of the most promising tech companies in the country. By noon, he'll be a cautionary tale about the price of prejudice in the modern corporate world. As he reaches the door, Sterling's voice stops him. "James, for what it's worth, I'm sorry it came to this. You built something remarkable here. I just wish you'd been remarkable enough to appreciate remarkable when it walked through your door." Morrison doesn't respond. There's nothing left to say. He opens the boardroom door and steps into a hallway that no longer belongs to him, walking toward an elevator that will carry him down from an empire he spent 15 years building and lost in 15 minutes. Behind him, the board continues their discussion, already moving toward damage control and recovery strategies. They have work to do, relationships to rebuild, and a future to salvage from the wreckage of Morrison's morning. Time will tell whether Maya Williams can be persuaded to give Teknova a second chance. But James Morrison's time has run out, and the clock has stopped ticking for a man who forgot that in the modern world, respect isn't something you get to ration based on appearances. It's something you earn by giving it freely to everyone who deserves it, which, in Maya Williams' case, turned out to be absolutely everyone except the man who refused to shake her hand. By 4:47 p.m., the transformation is complete. James Morrison's nameplate has been removed from his office door, his personal effects boxed and shipped, his corporate access revoked across all systems. The man who walked into Teknova this morning as its unquestioned leader walked out this afternoon as a cautionary tale about the speed with which corporate fortunes can reverse. Maya Williams receives the board's formal response at exactly 4:52 p.m., 8 minutes before her deadline. The message is brief, professional, and represents the complete capitulation of an organization that has finally understood the magnitude of its morning's miscalculation. She reads the email twice, her expression revealing nothing to the assistant who hovers nearby with barely concealed anxiety. The offer includes everything she demanded: Morrison's immediate departure, comprehensive diversity reforms, independent oversight, and a public acknowledgement of institutional failure. It's more than many companies would offer, and exactly what Maya expected from an organization desperate to avoid complete financial catastrophe. At 5:01 p.m., Maya's response arrives in Sterling's inbox. It contains a single sentence: "Williams Investment Fund will consider resuming our relationship with Teknova pending verification of implemented reforms." Consider. Not guarantee, not promise, not commit. Consider. It's the corporate equivalent of being placed on probation by someone who holds your future in their hands. Teknova gets to continue existing, but only under the watchful eye of an investor who has seen their true nature and found it wanting. The stock price stabilizes at 6% below morning levels, painful but not fatal. The social media storm continues, but now includes Teknova's swift response and Morrison's departure, blunting some of the criticism's edge. Several major news outlets pick up the story, turning it into a case study about unconscious bias in corporate leadership. Morrison himself has disappeared from public view, his LinkedIn profile quietly updated to show former CEO and seeking new opportunities. Industry insiders whisper that his chances of landing another executive position have evaporated along with his Technova career. In the unforgiving world of corporate leadership, some mistakes are simply too public and too revealing to overcome. Maya Williams, meanwhile, returns to her office, a sleek space 30 floors above the city, with windows that look out over an empire built on the revolutionary idea that brilliance comes in every package and wise investors learn to recognize it regardless of the wrapper. Her assistant brings her the afternoon's portfolio reports, and Maya reviews them with the same methodical attention she brought to her morning's performance at Technova. Each decision is calculated, each move strategic, each outcome measured against a standard that has never wavered. Excellence recognizes excellence, and everything else is just noise. At 6:30 p.m., she allows herself a moment of satisfaction, not because of Morrison's downfall that was inevitable once he revealed his character so completely, but because of the message the day's events have sent throughout the investment community. Discrimination isn't just morally wrong, it's catastrophically expensive. Companies that allow bias to influence their judgment will find themselves excluded from the networks that determine their future growth. Maya's phone buzzes with a text from her mentor. The woman who taught her that power wielded wisely is power that multiplies itself. Saw the news. Well played. Maya types back. Not about playing games, about changing them. The response comes immediately. Even better. As the city lights begin to twinkle in the gathering dusk, Maya Williams closes her laptop and prepares to head home. Tomorrow will bring new opportunities, new investments, new chances to identify and support excellence wherever it emerges. Tonight, she allows herself the quiet satisfaction of knowing that Technova's employees, especially those who share her heritage, will arrive at work tomorrow in a company that has been forced to confront its biases and commit to something better. Change, Maya has learned, rarely happens because people suddenly develop better hearts. It happens because the cost of staying the same becomes higher than the price of transformation. Today, Technova learned that lesson in the most expensive way possible, by losing something irreplaceable and being forced to rebuild from the foundation up. Morrison learned it too, though his education came in the form of career suicide rather than corporate evolution. Some people, Maya reflects, are simply too committed to their assumptions to survive contact with reality. But institutions, good institutions with strong bones and flexible spirits can learn, can adapt, can grow beyond the limitations of their worst leaders. Time will tell whether Technova is one of those institutions. Maya Williams will be watching, and her standards haven't changed. Excellence is excellence, respect is respect, and power remains something you earn rather than inherit. The day is over, the lesson has been taught, and tomorrow, the real work of building something better begins. Maya Williams stands at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her office, watching the city settle into evening rhythms. The day's events have already begun their transformation from immediate crisis to industry legend, the story of the billionaire investor who brought down a CEO with nothing more than patience, precision, and the willingness to let prejudice expose itself. Her assistant appears in the doorway with the quiet deference of someone who has learned to read her boss's moods like weather patterns. The 60 Minutes producer called again. They'd like to schedule an interview about today's events. Maya doesn't turn from the window. Tell them I'm not interested in making this about me. This was about institutional accountability, not personal vindication. And the Forbes reporter? She's writing a piece about unconscious bias in corporate leadership. I'll speak with her, Maya decides, but only if she focuses on systemic issues, not individual drama. The assistant nods and retreats, leaving Maya alone with her thoughts and the glittering cityscape that stretches toward the horizon. Somewhere in that constellation of lights, James Morrison is probably sitting in his empty office, or perhaps already at home, trying to understand how a career built over decades could evaporate in a single morning. Maya feels no satisfaction in his downfall. Destruction, Even necessary destruction is never something to celebrate. But transformation, the kind of deep institutional change that emerges from the ashes of failed leadership that's worth every moment of discomfort it requires. Her phone chimes with a message from Robert Sterling. "Maya, I wanted to personally thank you for giving Technova a second chance. We won't waste it." She types back, "Second chances are earned, Robert. Make sure you deserve this one." Another message appears. This one from a young woman named Jennifer Chen, a software engineer at Technova whose video of Morrison's behavior has now been viewed over 2 million times. "Miss Williams, I wanted you to know that what you did today changed everything for people like me at this company. Thank you for not backing down." Maya stares at the message for a long moment, remembering her own early career, the boardrooms where she was the only face like hers, the assumptions she had to overcome, the extra scrutiny that came with being different in spaces designed for sameness. She types, "Jennifer, you changed things by having the courage to record truth. I just made sure the right people saw it. Keep documenting, keep pushing, keep believing that excellence speaks for itself." The conversation reminds Maya why she does this work, not just the investing, but the harder task of using influence to create space for others who might otherwise be overlooked. Every company in her portfolio knows they're not just accountable for returns, but for creating environments where talent can flourish regardless of its packaging. As she prepares to leave for the day, Maya allows herself a moment to consider the broader implications of the morning's events. Technova's crisis will ripple through the industry, prompting uncomfortable conversations in boardrooms across the country. Some companies will preemptively review their own cultures, hoping to avoid similar exposure. Others will dismiss it as an isolated incident, right up until they face their own moment of reckoning. Maya has seen this pattern before. Cultural change happens slowly, then suddenly like water eroding stone, until the entire face of a cliff collapses in a single moment. Today's events were one of those sudden moments, when years of accumulated pressure finally found release. Her driver texts that he's waiting downstairs. Maya gathers her briefcase, the same simple leather case that carried $4 billion worth of leverage, into Technova's lobby this morning, and heads toward the elevator. As the doors close and the numbers count down toward street level, she reflects on the strange mathematics of power, how respect multiplies when shared freely, how prejudice divides until it destroys itself, and how the most profound changes often begin with the simplest actions, like extending your hand to someone and waiting to see if they're wise enough to shake it. The elevator reaches the ground floor with a soft chime. Maya Williams steps into the lobby of her own building, where the security guard greets her by name with genuine warmth, where the receptionist asks about her daughter's college applications, where the cleaning staff receive the same courteous acknowledgement as the investment partners. This is what she tried to show Technova this morning, that true strength comes from building up rather than breaking down, from including rather than excluding, from recognizing that the most valuable assets often come in unexpected packages. Some leaders understand this instinctively. Others have to learn it through painful experience. And a few, like James Morrison, never learn it at all. They simply become cautionary tales for those wise enough to pay attention. Maya Williams steps into the evening air, already thinking about tomorrow's opportunities. There are companies to evaluate, investments to consider, and cultures to assess. The work continues, one handshake at a time, one conversation at a time, one moment of truth at a time. Behind her, the city lights flicker like stars, each one representing dreams and ambitions and the endless human capacity for both remarkable progress and spectacular failure. Maya has learned to navigate by both using the light to find her way and the darkness to remind her why the journey matters. The car door closes with a soft click. The driver pulls into traffic, and Maya Williams disappears into the flow of the evening, carrying with her the quiet satisfaction of someone who has just reminded the world that power, when wielded with precision and purpose, can change everything. Today was never about revenge, it was about respect. And respect, once demanded and received, has a way of transforming everyone it touches, even those who initially refused to offer it, especially them. The story ends where it began, with a choice about how we see each other, how we value each other, and whether we're wise enough to recognize excellence when it walks through our doors, regardless of whether it looks like what we expected. Maya Williams understood this from the beginning. Technova learned it the hard way. And James Morrison? James Morrison learned that some lessons come too late to save the teacher, but just in time to educate everyone else.